Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Photo Mish Mash. This one being broadcast November 11th, 2020. Happy Veterans Day, everybody. I'm so excited. We got a packed show. We've got not rumors, but confirmation that Sony is working on a new drone. Who's it going to be for? Is it going to be kind of that entry level, or is it going to be those massive drones that are carrying around their high-end mirrorless cameras? We'll talk about it, and I've got some ideas about which is the perfect camera for them to use. I want to talk a little bit more about the Photoshop Neural features, and I'm really excited to bring back our guest Tonya today to talk about those, because as we were talking about before the show, well, first, Tonya, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks.
You have been really busy with portrait sessions, and so you've been using the neural filters some, so I'm excited to get your perspective on that. And you're also a Nikon shooter. Sorry.
I am. No, that's okay. I am a Nikon shooter. I don't like where this is going on this show.
I know. You know, honestly, it's a little bit of a catch to grab people and talk about, but their profits weren't great. There are some glimmers of hope as well. And so we'll talk about that and just kind of muse for a little bit about where maybe you want Nikon to go and where we think they need to go to stay competitive in the marketplace. And of course, we're going to be reviewing your photos and lots more. And this show wouldn't be complete without Steve Scurich. Steve, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I didn't forget about you. I just changed up the beginning a little bit, and then I wasn't sure how to slip you in there. So
no, you did well. No, it's good to be back. And okay. Tonya, it's great to see you again. Last time we spoke, we were on a Zoom call together with like the Brady Bunch scene.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
All of us that were involved with the IPC, the International Photographic Competition this year. I don't know if you talked about this last week. I'm sorry I missed the show and I haven't caught the replay yet, but Tonya killed it at IPC. So again, I want to give a shout out to her with a huge congratulations and very well deserved. I'm so proud.
Thank you.
But it is great to be back here with you guys.
Well, and Steve helped me actually prep some of my images, so I was really thankful for that. That's
to a certain extent. I really didn't do much. That was 99.9% you.
Thank you.
And Steve, you did well too.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with. I was very happy with the way the results went this year. There was a big surprise, one of mine going lone that I was not expecting, which is, you know, a lot of times things fall in the direction that leaves you a little disappointed. This happened to fall in a direction that I wasn't expecting in a good way. So yeah, I was pretty stoked.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, congratulations to both of you. Tonya was on the show. We did chat about it a bit, and we looked specifically at your macro, Tonya, but of course you did well in others. Have both of you shared all of the pictures in the pen group? Am I right on that?
Yeah, I did. So I've been off of Facebook, but I went back on for, you know, like a week's period of time during the IPC, and particularly to work with the pen members and stuff. And in doing so, I did share my photos. Since that time, though, I did a deactivate on my account, so I don't know if they even appear anymore. You guys would have to tell me or not. But and I'm sorry for that if they disappeared. So it's, you know, the account hasn't gone away. It's just deactivated. I'd actually have to log in and stuff to get it back up. But yeah, so I don't know.
Maybe post them to Instagram, which reminds me that both of my wonderful guests today, all of their social media contact info is linked right down below this video. And that's a very easy way to thank them for their time on the show, is to go find those links and follow them to see what they're up to from time to time. Tonya, you are an excellent poster. Steve, you seem to be posting about as often as you're getting a haircut, so I don't know.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show. My last haircut was in March. Kind of hard for you guys to notice because I just slick it back for the show, but it's getting so unruly back here. It's crazy. Yeah, I say this every show. Like, I need to post on Instagram more. I like that account. I'm leaving it active. But I've been just super busy with, I did like 10 headshots for realtors the other day, which is, that's not my wheelhouse at all. And so I was kind of stressed out, but I think they turned out all right.
Nice. So a couple things I want to say. One, real quick, this is going to try something new this show. If you stick around to the very end, I'm going to run upstairs. We've got the BayPhoto Package Cam. So a couple of days ago, the largest print that I've ever ordered arrived. This is an epic print from BayPhoto. You can see right now Archer is standing guard, making sure nobody opens it because he is ferocious. And we just have to thank Chris for getting him on there and make sure he gets off. There's only one screw left to unscrew out of this crate, and then I'm going to open it. I really haven't looked at it, which makes me a little nervous because BayPhoto is fantastic, but I hope I don't open it and go like, oh crap, they really screwed up. I don't think that's going to happen. That's why
I get so nervous when I order big pictures.
Yeah.
It's a huge investment. That's why. So
it is. It's and I don't know, something about taking a picture from even a large monitor. Let's say you're working on I have a 27-inch, which is a pretty big monitor. But when you blow it up to 60 inches in a print, it's gonna look different. Toby, I sent you some pictures of that chicken photo that you and I had worked on a while back, and we put it up as a canvas in our kitchen, and that was a crazy unboxing. I'm still getting used to it, and it's been hanging up for about 2 weeks now.
That's cool. It looks like a great shot, and that's another thing you could post on Instagram or stories for us to look at. Just giving you some ideas, Steve. I am, especially because this is, the epic print. This isn't hyperbole. This is their category of prints that are up to 600 DPI. So it is a very, very high quality print, and I'm excited to see it, and definitely, Tonya, a little nervous. So it's good. Well, so stick around for the end of the show. If you're not watching, well, first off, you know what? Let me welcome the chat room. Chat room, thank you so much for joining us from wherever you are. We love to see you all in there. You're often sharing let's see. Oh, Tim points out that Archer can only watch from one side. That's true. He is missing the other eye. So you could sneak up on him on his other side. That's so mean, Tim.
You got to stick his googly eyeball on.
That's true. It's just like the fake security cameras, right? It would fool everybody. Oh, that's good. Never mind. So thank you so much for joining us, chat room. Many of you are pen members. That is part of our Photo Enthusiast Network. And if you're not, you should consider joining. There are a ton of training videos and, of course, access to submitting images to this weekly show and the monthly image competitions, which are a great way to prep for the PPA international competition. So it all works really well. Even though we don't have any official affiliation with PPA, I feel like we're a good community college for PPA. If PPA was Ivy League, maybe we're maybe a community college, maybe a state school. Let's up a level from that.
I think we're a 4-year institution, and PPA is going on getting your master's degree.
Oh, there you go. Nicely done.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm planning on entering districts, and I'm going to take some risks since it's not as final.
Are you submitting a photo with a smaller P this time?
No.
Jeff gave her such a hard time. He's like, look at the size of that P. It's like a ribeye steak down there under the mattresses.
I felt secure about the size of the P, personally.
I thought it was funny.
It was funny.
He's like, you don't have to show the P. Everybody knows that story. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, you probably left Facebook before I posted in the pen group a picture of me eating a plate of giant peas. I just made it for Jeff.
That's awesome.
So.
Awesome. Yeah.
You know what? There's a. I should probably address this real quick. I know. For those in the chat room, if you have a question, go ahead and put a Q in front of your comment and write your question, and we'll compile those at the end and get back to them and answer those. But from time to time, we do answer some questions as we go along. One of the questions from Daniela just says, can you explain what pen members are? Toby, you want to take that one?
You bet. Pen members are members of our community. It is a private community that you have to pay for. We're running a special right now of just $24 for your first year. That gives you access to hundreds of hours of training videos on everything from posing, starting a photography business, tax information, what kind of insurance you should get, and then, of course, Photoshop, Lightroom alternatives like DxO, the making of a black and white image. David did a whole series on that. Steve, you have a great, fantastic recent series on shooting real estate photography. It's just a huge array of stuff. But what we're most proud of is the community itself. It gives you access to a forum and a private Facebook group. It is a great group of people that are here to support one another, to encourage one another, to give useful and helpful feedback. I am so happy that still to this day, are we passing our 3-year anniversary? I think we are.
Yeah,
right around now. Yeah. 3 years. We've never had to discipline anybody in the group. We've never had to say, hey, there's no politics in there. There's no talking down to people about what gear they choose. It is just, hey, what do you think of this picture? Or, hey, I'm looking for this next lens for this camera. Or, hey, I'm starting to think about a new computer upgrade. What should it be? And you just get good, helpful responses. So those of you who are in the chat, who are Pen members, again, thank you all both for your membership and just for being awesome people. I really mean that. And I'm so proud to be part of this organization. So you can find out more at photorec.tv/pen. That's the easiest way to go, and it automatically applies that little coupon code for your first year. So
yeah, and I don't know if you may have said this, so my apologies if it's a repeat. It's PEN is Photo Enthusiast Network, so we commonly just say PEN. And you probably mentioned that and I missed it. And she had asked a follow-up about being international. Absolutely. In fact, we would love to grow that community in the international markets. We've got a couple members that are very involved that do live internationally. And so I definitely encourage you to check it out. It's just such a nice group of people. And if you get engaged, Tonya can certainly add to this, but your photography will grow and you will become a better artist all around as a result.
Yeah, I love it because I have a portrait business and I feel like it's easy kind of for me to know what to do for clients, but with my fine artwork, I was lonely. It's really hard to find people that you can bounce that kind of stuff off of and get really good feedback. Because I do want to up my game technically as far as my composite work, and man, I just have so many friends already from the group that I would not want to be without. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. And it's even in some parts of the U.S. We have clusters of folks, and they've even gone together and gone out shooting. So I know a lot of people, don't necessarily want to go out shooting by themselves. Don't always feel safe, or a lot of different reasons. Just want to carpool, usually when there's not a pandemic. And so that has worked out for some people as well. So it's just really cool. Yeah. All right. Macro. Nice. All right. So let's move on and just kind of. One thing I do want to mention is that there is a deal today on Amazon for this 1 terabyte and the 2 terabytes. What do you call it? The 2 terabyte size is a good deal too, but a 1 terabyte very fast SSD is on sale for just $127. It's linked in the show notes right down below. It's nice, it's compact, and if you are bummed out with kind of Lightroom speed, an SSD can certainly help up that a bit. I tell you,
that's awesome.
Go ahead, Steve.
No, that just seems like a great deal, and SSD is definitely the way to go if you can afford to do it. Speeds things up a lot.
Steve, I'm curious to hear from you, and Tonya too. I think we touched on this, but this latest Lightroom update, I'm back to feeling like Lightroom is very slow for me. And I hate to kind of like go back and forth in this conversation, but right now I'm at a point where it's a little painful at times, and I'm on an SSD. I think part of the blame is on my older Mac. A little bit later in the show, we will be talking about these new Macs. They didn't announce iMacs yet, but obviously those are coming, and I'm excited, but I'm also nervous. So we'll get to that as well.
Well, all right. I just updated my Mac, and I'm always afraid to do that during my busy season because, like, what if everything runs slow or something goes wrong? But I did to Catalina, I think is the newest version. And I was thrilled because everything ran faster. And then I was like, why didn't I do this sooner?
Nice. No, that's true. I mean, so often professional photographers aren't always on the latest and greatest because if it's currently working for them, there is always that worry. And there was an update within the last year or 18 months that Adobe was like, oh, wait a sec, don't upgrade yet. So it's always worth waiting a little bit and hearing if they work out those bugs.
With Lightroom, I haven't really noticed, but I've also been doing lighter editing in Lightroom. I've been taking a lot more stuff into Photoshop with my real estate work. So I've kind of I don't have a macro set up for Lightroom, but I edit a photo and then kind of sync that all over. And then I pull everything into Photoshop and end up doing all my finishing work there. One of the things I noticed, though, with the latest update in Photoshop that's really annoying is Photoshop 2021 came out, and the 2020 was not uninstalled when 2021 was installed. And so I kept getting this progress bar that would stick on my screen. And I looked into it, and it was really common with 2020. And you had to go into your preferences and check a box. I can't even remember what the label of the box was. I went to do that, and in 2021, and it said this is no longer an option in the general preferences panel. So I was getting totally annoyed that this progress box would just sit there. Once I uninstalled 2020, it fixed itself. So somehow that was like overlaying onto 2021. And I just can't stand when Adobe does stuff like that. It's almost like a half-baked release was sent out. Just give me the new one, uninstall the old one, keep it clean, and let's move forward.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned that progress bar. David Carr and I both had that issue. There was some workshop we were teaching on earlier this year, and he had it up, and I was like, well, what is that? And he's like, I don't know. It's just always on the screen. And I feel like he gave me his progress bar virus, because then it started showing up on mine. Nothing, didn't happen. But I didn't have 2021 yet, and then it did just kind of eventually go away.
Oh, it did. Interesting.
But we had somebody in the last show who was like, "Hey, I've lost all of those new cool things that you were talking about in that show. Where are they?" And I said, I don't know." Turned out that they had both copies of Photoshop, and they accidentally opened the old one when they went back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know Adobe does that because, again, for professionals, you don't want to take away something that's working for you, but they should make it more clear of saying, "Hey, we've just given you this new completely version. What do you want to do with the old one?"
Yeah, that's all. That's actually a better point. Is all you need is a checkbox that says uninstall 2020, or with the default being that it stays on your machine.
Yeah.
So
I did the same thing. I opened up the old one the first couple of times, and I was like, "Where'd everything go?" But
yeah,
you found it
in a rush, and it takes a while.
Yeah. An important chat to two quick things to point out. Alton Marsh says harder to recover data from a failed SSD. That is true, and so it is important that your SSD in any drive you are working on should be backed up regularly. So my SSD is my working Lightroom catalog and folders, and it goes out on trips with me, gets new photos added to it. When I come back, as soon as it's plugged in to my main machine, it gets backed up to a secondary drive, which then gets backed up online as well. So I would encourage anybody, no matter what drive you're using, to make sure you are backing up your drives regularly. Thank you for pointing that out, Alton. And Tom J says he did lose some Lightroom photos after that last update, and then a lot of exclamation points after that. Tom, I'm sorry to hear that. I know that their other version had a major, I'll call it major F up, and people lost pictures, and Adobe was like, sorry, they're gone.
Ooh.
Which there's a lot of reasons why I still don't like that other version, and the fact that your pictures do get stored on the cloud. We're talking about the Lightroom. It's called Lightroom. And what we use on this show, and what I teach, and what all of us use, is the Lightroom Classic.
Yeah.
So our pictures aren't in the cloud, and they're backed up in several places. So I like that. Okay, let's jump into Lightroom and review some photos. And again, if you're watching this and you're not a Pen member, if Pen members get to submit images, we review them. The last couple of weeks, I've been going in and adding a table of contents to the show. And can I make it? Oh, do I do this? Here we go. We'll do that. I just noticed, even though every time we say we want this to be a little bit shorter, it's still pretty long. So again, we're trying. We really value the feedback that we're able to give you, but we also want to kind of keep the show moving along. So we might not all review each of your photos. Only one of us might speak, or one says some and a little bit more from somebody else. And we jump right into Brian Scanlon's Love Waits for No One.
I've seen some of his stuff from this series of photographs that he's done, so I'm going to shut up during this one. Let you guys take the ball and run with it.
Okay.
I'm going to say, and I need to go look for it because I love this. This is cool.
Brian has several shots I've seen from kind of the Day of the Dead celebration, and this is a fantastic portrait. There's a lot I love about it. But the first thing that jumps out at me after kind of taking in her is that it feels like there's a bit of a halo around her. And as I work my way through this detail, it kind of pulls me out from time to time, that I just feel like she's been lightened more. I could be wrong. It could just be the flash spill. But then I get down to this little bit of flower detail dropped down here, which I think is a cool detail. But it feels like that also has a little halo around it, and that takes me out. Other than that, there's a lot to really like about this image, and I think from the exposure on her, even though that she's got the shiny, very shiny dress and face paint that's very dark, either through work or through the original exposure, you've done a really good job there. So I like all that. Tonya, do you have anything else to add as a portrait photographer?
I do agree with the halo, and actually, if he had brightened the dress, I think he could go a little lower on that and keep the face as kind of the brightest element. But I do love the detail of the flower on the ground. I think that's a really nice thought and adds to the story. But if you can pull the dress down a little bit, I just feel like right under her hand is like the brightest part. But it's a cool image. I really like the composition. I like where the flower dropped, and I'm glad it's black and white too, which isn't always. I'm a big fan of color, but it works for this.
Nice. Thank you, Brian. All right, we're gonna move on. Mike has got two, so we're gonna be quick. Let's see. They're both quite similar. Let's bring them both up and see if there's any. I'm doing a terrible job here. If there's any comments we can say about both of them together that work for both. It's funny, when I bring both of them up together, I want to rotate this one. Am I alone in that, or do we want to make this like that?
I would, on that one on the right, personally, I would flip it around. The chat room's going to laugh because there's a couple things I'm going to say here that you always hear me say. So flip it, and then I would rotate it counterclockwise just a little bit so that yellow and red and stuff, kind of those petals lead you into the bee. Because all that green stuff down there, it's really kind of irrelevant. It's okay to leave some of it in there, but you leave too much and it starts to really clash with the colors. And yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
something like that. I would do it in Photoshop because it won't constrain the crop so much, and you can fill in the spaces outside if you want to change the ratio from a square.
Yeah, so I agree. It's getting a little tight with that crop there, but in Photoshop you'd be able to make that space. Yep. Yeah. Cool.
I prefer that image of the two because the eye is in focus.
That's a nice point.
Good catch, Tonya. Yeah, I didn't. I couldn't really tell on the other one. The other one, I like the other shot, but I would also play around with the angle of that. Plus, you have this whole negative space in the back, which is really cool. So that might be another one that I would kind of flip and rotate and play around with.
Yeah, I do love. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to tell the audience, when you mess around with your crop and rotation and stuff like that, it can totally change the story of your photograph. So I would encourage you, you're not going to break the picture. I'd encourage you to play around with the sliders and the angles and stuff like that and find out kind of how the story changes with different crops and different positions within a frame.
Yeah, I love how it goes to jet black back here. That's
Mhm.
very interesting, and we can see some more of that. But I love, Tonya, your comment of we're kind of photographing from an awkward angle of the bee here, and if we could just get a little bit more eye there,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Nice. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you sending those in. We're going to move on to just one at a time. Eric Anderson's, he regularly shares some pretty sweet images. We've got this one. I think he's Tasmania, if I feel like most of his pictures are coming from. I don't know if this one is too. But this is a shot. So, just a couple weeks ago, I got back from the road trip that took me down to Zion for the workshops. And the whole way down and the whole way back, I was pretty consistently looking for a shot like this with those, layers in the backdrop with those mountains. And I really like this. And a couple of things that I like that seem thoughtful is that we don't intersect here, this foreground information and rocks, they don't intersect this ridge here. They're framed within it. That seems like a thoughtful process. And then just the way all of these layers kind of get softer and softer. It's very nice. It's very nice. Anything else to add from either folks? I'm just going to say very nice.
Tonya?
It's a little, I feel like I can't see it as well as I would like to through the screen share. I kind of feel like there are some oranges in there that I might push a little bit. But I really love orange and purple color combinations, and I think they could be there. So I don't know. It'll be hard. I'd have to play with it and see.
Yeah, a good eye. I think that's some lichen on the rock there, and you could work a little bit with the orange slider to bring those out a little bit more, increase the saturation, and play with the luminance as well and see how that affects the overall image.
But it has it really has fantastic depth to it, which, like you said, is just something that's so fantastic to capture in a landscape.
Yeah, I would just add, I would kind of play around with that foreground a bit. It's very bottom heavy, the picture. I love the layers, but there's a lot of that sort of just non-rocky terrain that makes it very heavy at the bottom. And the real story is being, kind of seeing these rocks and certain types of crops may draw more attention to the various rocks in the foreground. So I would encourage you to play around with that for sure, and just kind of go from there. Just something to think about. Yep. Somebody in the chat room said I sound like Tom Hanks. I hope I don't sound like Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump.
No, Tom Hanks when in Castaway when he's crying to Wilson. That's what he meant.
Somewhere there's a picture of that during COVID lockdown. But,
all right, very nice.
I was running.
We're going to move on to, in some ways, kind of a similar shot with very similar tones, but a little wetter. And this is from Laurie, who has been on. Laurie, I don't know if you're in chat or not. I'd love for you to share where you're posting. You're on this quest to visit so many of the different national parks, and you just finished up this kind of Midwest to Northwest region park visits, and I'd love for you to share kind of where people can see a little bit more of where you've been, because you've been hitting not only the big epic parks, but some of the little smaller and lesser known ones too. I think this is somewhere here along the Pacific coast. And my question to you all is, would you lighten the foreground? Tonya, let's start with you.
I would. I can't tell if there's a lot of detail in the blacks from my screen, but I like it when there's a little bit more detail in the dark areas. And I think that'll bring up the foreground as well.
There is some. Yeah, but not a lot. Not a lot. So we could throw a local adjustment over that. Let's see real quick and just bring up that area and see what we get. Let's just do exposure a bit and then shadows and maybe blacks. Yeah, we very quickly start to lose contrast though.
I landscape, so I feel like I should defer to you guys on this, but I would guess that I would need to bracket to get the exposure correct on something like this.
Yeah, yeah. If you wanted more detail there. Steve, how do you feel about the dark foreground?
I like the idea of bringing it up just a little bit, not too much, because I really love the silhouette look. The place that, and I love Lori's work. I've seen quite a bit of it, and I love following her travels. It's just totally cool, and she's just a total sweetheart. But I would just be careful in the sky. Some of that banding that occurs if you bring down, like if you dehaze things too much, or and skies can look like this. So maybe she didn't do much to it, but I personally like the warmer tones going into the cooler tones to be very, very gradual and subtle. And it's not like sometimes if you apply too much saturation and stuff like that, it can all of a sudden just look like blue turns into orange real quickly. So I would just kind of soften that up a little bit. And it's looking a little muddy too, so I might even add some coolness to it, some blue. So if you want to, I mean, that is going to kind of take away from the orange, so you can isolate it and just do it in the like you were doing with the graduated filter, and then just add some coolness to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be nice.
To the sky or to the
no, to the sky, because
okay. I went the other way. Let's see what Skyway goes. I think both look nice. I don't know.
And then I would probably elongate that that graduated filter, so the spread between it. You know, it's fairly tight right now. I'd probably just bring that more to the top bar, drag it up to increase the spread.
Gotcha. So you're looking for a really fine gradation, really soft change. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm searching for the right words to say here and not having a good go at it.
Yeah, I think coming up a little bit from the bottom, you mentioned that, Roy mentioned that in chat as well. I think just kind of gives you a kind of a cleaner start. And then each of these rocks is out on their own, nicely spaced with that little bit of reflection. Probably get rid of this guy over here in the corner in Photoshop. But it's a nice scene, and I love this kind of
awesome.
piano look.
Awesome shot.
Thank you, Laurie. Lynn has shared with us, I think one is her edited JPEG and one is maybe the D&G straight out of camera. So let's get her edited JPEG. And again, I know, Tonya, you mentioned this. It's hard for you guys. You are looking after this is coming over the internet and getting squeezed a little bit. So it's hard to make, real sharp calls about what, if there's halos or if things aren't as sharp as they are. I'll say that Lynn, what I see here is just a teeny bit of over sharpening, just a little bit. But this is a cool moment, and I love that all these little flying water droplets all off and everything. How do we feel if we kind of bring it up and make it a little bit more symmetrical? Because we have the bath cut off on the left. What happens if we cut it off on the right? Is that better, or is that too tight?
That's a little tight. I like the drops of water that are coming down the bird bath to give some context on where the bird is.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else? I might bring exposure down just a little bit. Feels just a little high. If we hit J, we don't have any red, but it felt just a little warm. A little bright in spots. Yeah.
It looks a little overall cool to me, but again, that could just be a translation from secondary viewing.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely a white vignette would be outstanding here.
Careful, Steve. People are going to start thinking you're serious.
Yeah, for those who haven't caught past episodes when we talk about that, always at most, just about all costs, avoid a white vignette. You have either 1970s funeral or wedding, which doesn't seem to fit with today's photography trends. But a little darker vignette would be nice here because the picture, especially the bird centered like that, kind of lends itself to the depth that you can get by adding some vignette. I do think, though, that it is over sharpened. You especially notice it in the catch light in the bird's eye in the brightened up version.
Yeah.
It just falls very, very flat. So if you were to print that really large, that catch light is just going to be like this big, flat, blown out kind of white spot in the middle of a black bird's eye. So I would be very careful of that, because when you sharpen things, whether you're using definition or clarity or sharpening, you're basically increasing the pixel size around the edges. So if you have an edge that meets a dark edge meeting a light edge, you're going to start to get this big black spread right there, and it's just going to look fake. So it's kind of a fine line. There's some great tutorials on Pen about how to sharpen but not overdoing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then I think water droplet wise, I think they're great. I think there's a couple you could take out, like this little odd looking one over here. But then don't go down the path of like spending hours cleaning up every single one. Just the ones that look a little bit more odd. Like you got a couple of orange ones in there. I think it would still look just fine with kind of simplifying to just these little clear droplets flying here and there. Cool. All right.
Great moment, and it's fantastic how the bird is just looking right at her for it.
I know.
Yep.
Super cute.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on. Kelly submitted this one, very appropriate for Veterans Day, I think. And
wow. I mean, so it's an interesting picture to me, because first of all, it's a really beautiful, emotional, artistic expression that you're looking at here. And then by putting everything, such a shallow depth of field, and putting everything in that lower right corner on a wide format like this, it's very stressful to the eye. It's very visually kind of stressful, which kind of lends to the emotion of the scene. Mm-hmm. But I personally would rather see, if you're going to shoot it with that shallow depth of field, I would rather see the focus be on one flower in from that right side.
So you'd like to start here? Yeah,
I'd like to see that cross and that flower in focus there, because visually it's just a little bit, it's not quite as stressful. It's not right up against the frame. You've got the tie right there that's holding the flower to the cross that's kind of being cut off over there. You're not seeing, you kind of want to see what's written on that cross up there, but it's being blocked and it's being cut off. So if that's what she was going for, then I definitely applaud it. But I personally, I just think that the depth of field is too shallow in this case.
Tonya, anything you want?
Yeah, I just think that you're right in the fact that what we have happening here is we have a bunch of rules of composition that are all kind of leading to not what's in focus.
Yeah.
Did I say that correctly? So I feel like the leading lines are kind of, we have sort of like an arrow happening there with the grass, and it's all taking us to a place that isn't in focus, and then we kind of have to come back to the one that is. So I agree. I would love to see the shallow depth of field, a couple crosses down, if not the next one down. But right idea. I mean, the composition is there. It's just the focal point competes with it.
Mm-hmm. Which so also, I think you're both saying you'd like to see a little bit more depth to this image too. Would you like to see a little bit less shallow depth of field, or am I misinterpreting?
I would, yes.
I think so, because it's nice to be able to maybe also read one of the crosses. Like,
and
you kind of want to be able to complete that, and you can't. But
Yeah, and I think it's a good question to always ask yourself. Steve, you mentioned this, the little tie that's holding this flower on is cut off, and so I'd like to have a little more feeling of complete. I wonder though, let's say she gave us what you were asking, Steve. This one is out of focus and this one's in sharp focus. Wouldn't we be bothered by this first one out of focus and say, hey, I wish we'd crop in a little bit to start with the one that's in focus?
Yeah,
I feel like
I kind of thought about that, and I mean, there's almost a hybrid to my comments and what Tanya's point was. Is you've got these leading lines, but they're not really leading you to the story of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually leading you away from it, and you tend not to start a photograph way over on the right side. You kind of had to hunt around. For me, the split second that I saw the picture, I really had to hunt around with, okay, where's the in focus part? And okay, it's all the way over here as I'm leaving the picture. So yeah, it's kind of a difficult one. It's not one that you can flip around, not without, some serious Photoshop work on the words and stuff like that. So it's hard because, but I love it from a discussion piece and from an emotional piece, and it did have impact when I saw it. So I don't know. I'm just kind of having trouble figuring out the way it should go.
I like this. The second way you kind of described this, I think was very accurate, and I think it makes more sense. Yeah. Okay. Great. Hey, everybody who sent pictures in, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to put yourself out there in front of us. I know it's not always easy, and we appreciate it. And based on those who are watching live who have submitted images, I think you find it valuable. And again, if you would like to get this kind of feedback, not only here through this show, but also through the community and through the monthly image reviews, which are a higher level than this, and you also can win a prize. A really nice print from BayPhoto each month is up for grabs. Plus, just the feedback, though, is valuable in itself. So keep that in mind. You can join it. Pen, photorec.tv/pen is the easiest way to get there. All right. Let's talk. First, a little bit of news. That is that Sony has announced that they are releasing a drone. They have a really boring page that looks like this. And it says, today, announced that it has launched a new project for drones in the field of AI robotics. The proliferation of drones has contributed to delivery, blah, blah, blah. AirPeak will support the creativity of video creators to the fullest extent possible, aiming to contribute to the further development of the entertainment industry, as well as to improved efficiency and savings in various industries. And then you can go to the AirPeak website, and it has just the tiniest tease of a drone. This is out at the very end of one of the arms, and it's a part of the propeller, and that's all you get. So the question is, should us normal people get excited about this? Or is this going to be, they mentioned the entertainment industry, is this going to be a high-powered drone that's carrying around their full, mirrorless cameras? Do we know? Do we care?
I don't know that they would. Well,
Steve and I use drones all the time.
What's that?
We use drones all the time. Have you flown yours yet?
Yeah, we won't talk about my drone.
I would not have known from that video that was a drone. That's how much I don't use drones.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting to be an old man. I'm such a stills guy. It's hard to just teach this old dog some new tricks, but I'll get there. I will get there. I don't know. It's kind of an advertisement just for the Sony brand name, right? Okay, they're entering the drone world, which is awesome. I think it's great. I wish DJI would get some serious competition because I love competition in the marketplace, and I think Sony is an awesome brand. Having said that, though, Sony also has introduced products to the market that are just giant flops from time to time in certain market segments. Why they can't get a cell phone in people's hands, I just don't know. They've been trying forever. They've got certain branches that they dabble in, and they just don't seem to connect with the buyer. I hope they do with a drone. I think that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the cell phones. Let's come back to that in a second. Let me just show you that they do have a camera ready to go, though. This is their RX0 camera. It's about the size of a GoPro, but it has that 1-inch sensor in it that Sony has and is very, very good. So they're all ready to go with a pretty impressive camera that is drone ready. And I'd love, as you said, see some competition against DJI. But I don't know. The way they said this makes me think that this is going to be more high end. But let's hope. Let's hope. Yeah, you know, Kaz has their cell phone, and I've been at some of their press events for cameras, and they're like, hey, we also got these cell phones, and they hand them out to us for us to play with for a few minutes at breakfast. They'll loan them to press. And I kind of want to use one, but I mean, no one's going to watch a video about a Sony cell phone, really. No.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. I've seen causes. I was with him. We were rooming together in Alaska right after he got it, and it's awesome. It's an awesome phone. In fact, Marquez Brownlee did a YouTube video maybe a month ago about why aren't people buying Sony cell phones? And I wish, if I had known this discussion was going to happen on the show that I brought up, I suppose. I wish I would have watched it, because I am curious now to hear what he says about that. So some in the audience have probably seen it, and I generally tend to agree with his assessment of all things tech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tell you, I mean, you know, I complained a little bit about the Pixel 5. It's growing on me, certainly, but one of my biggest complaints is if I want to be a little bit more serious with this as a photography tool, you know, there's just no options. But on the Sony side of things, in those Sony phones, you have incredible manual control for both photo and video to a really impressive degree. And so if you're somebody who likes that, I think a lot of people watching are like, well, I'm just going to carry around my real camera if I want a manual camera experience. And I understand. But if you want that in a manual, in a phone, there you go.
Yeah. I think maybe one of Sony's problems is that they are super advanced, and they've got some of the best tech out there in all things, every market that they enter in. But their menu systems and how you use the product, it's like you have to be an expert in that field, or you have to learn their language on how to properly set it up. Having a bunch of custom dials on something is awesome if you know what you're doing. If you're just a layperson who's buying this and, you know, wants to take it out of the box and just start using it like an iPhone or something, then you're probably going to be pretty disappointed and not want to buy the product.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, because I'm just wrapping up my R5 review. It should be out by the end of this week. And in some ways, I'm a little bit more disappointed than I was early on, because I've matched it up against my 3-year-old Sony that is now half the price. And image quality wise, it's very hard to tell a difference in a lot of shots. So a 3-year-old camera, I feel like, should be fairly easily beaten by a much newer camera. But the usability, the enjoyment I have when shooting with this camera, using it, going through the menu, a fully articulated touch screen that you can get into the menu and navigate through so quickly. I think some people are going to be like, I don't care if the Sony's beating it from 3 years ago. I want that Canon. And I think that's totally legit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, let's move on to something Macs. Tonya, you use a Mac for editing or a PC?
I do. I use a Mac.
And Steve, I know you're a Mac guy as well.
Yep.
Yesterday, Apple launched their first ARM-based Macs. They announced them, and they're up for order. We have, so maybe real quick, tell people that this is moving away from the Intel chips that they've been on for, gosh, I don't know, what, about a decade or so? Something like that. So these are ARM-based, so this is Apple's own chip design, and they are promising, they're calling it the M1 chip. They've got an Air they announced, they've got a Mac Mini and a MacBook Pro. The 13-inch MacBook Pro, which, as you know, I was kind of waiting for a nice new Apple laptop, and I said I'm getting this Dell in the interim, and it's working for me. I have some complaints. I keep meaning to make that video about it, but I tell you what, this 13-inch MacBook Pro looks pretty darn exciting. Any of you have plans to upgrade to any of these anytime soon?
No. Because I'm never going to get a Hasselblad if I keep buying all the
You got to make some budget cuts if you want a Hasselblad in your future. Yeah, I understand.
Well, I actually just invested a lot into lighting, and so I have to hold tight for a little while. But my computer's not old either.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking at. I was in the market for a new MacBook Air. I want a really lightweight, high performance laptop for travel. But this year, those jets have cooled a lot for obvious reasons. We just haven't been out in the field, so I haven't given it much thought. My laptop has literally been sitting in my nightstand drawer all year long. I think I brought it to our Yellowstone trip, and that's it. It's just I've been on my desktop. Yeah. And I haven't watched the special event from yesterday. I keep meaning to go back and do that. Because usually I like to watch that live or an hour or so afterwards, but I've just been super busy. However, I'm so excited about this M1 chip that they're doing. I was when they made the pre-announcement, maybe a year ago or 6 months ago. But now that it's finally starting to make its way into machines, I think 2 years, 3 years from now, we're going to see some really cool advanced both hardware and software capabilities from Apple. And a company as rich as Apple, money-wise, it's just kind of silly that they haven't come out with their own chips before. But I guess they've invested over a decade, they said, and they bought over 6 companies to the tune of, I don't know, $1 billion in R&D, or buying these companies to pull everything together and to make this happen. And I think it's a huge step forward for the company. And let's face it, Apple's been kind of killing it for the last 10 years as it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And in my kind of headline of this show in the newsletter I sent out, I said, new Macs, wrong Lightroom. So my concern, so this is a new chip, and software needs to be changed to write on, to work on this new hardware. And there's been some partners Apple mentioned when they talked about moving to this earlier this year. I think in June or so, they had their first announcement of, hey, yeah, we are moving to ARM. People knew, but they made it official. They said, we have partners, and they named Adobe as one of their partners. And during the presentation, I only watched a kind of summary presentation. They specifically mentioned Photoshop as being one of the new native apps that's going to take advantage of not only this chip, but of course the GPU as well. They're throwing out all kinds of things like 2.5 times faster, 5 times faster for GPU tasks. And I'm really excited that Adobe and Photoshop was specifically mentioned. They also specifically mentioned Lightroom, but they said Lightroom, and the graphic on the screen was the mobile version, the version that I'm not excited. So I'm nervous, and apps that aren't rewritten, I don't have any inside information. Just because they showed that doesn't mean it's not also going to be rewritten for Classic, or Classic's going to be rewritten. But they talked about having programs that basically act as an intermediate so that you can continue to run your old apps on this new hardware. So I have some concerns if this is a point at which Adobe says, hey, you know what? The new Lightroom is the Lightroom that you need to use on these new ARM-based architecture going forward, unless you want to use it inside this other app. And I'm worried that that's going to slow it down a little bit when it's already a sluggish program.
I'll tell you what this has brought back to light, that was the door was shut on this quite a few years ago for me, is it makes me really miss Aperture again. I was an Aperture user for so long, and Aperture with the Photoshop plugin was my editing system for a long time, and I loved Aperture. It did start to get sluggish. I understand all the reasons why they gave up doing that, but I think a company as big and advanced as Apple, had they invested in Aperture and continued working on that, man, to take advantage of their own chips with their own software programs, and then just use a Photoshop plugin would have been awesome.
Yeah. Brian asked in chat, 16 gigabyte. I didn't realize that 16 gig is the max limit on these MacBook Pros. I think I'd be okay using a 16 gig now. That's what my old Mac is that crashes all the time now. But I certainly would love the opportunity to have a 32 if it was available to me.
Well, the other thing, they're keeping the 720p front-facing camera on that thing. Or at least on the Air they are. I don't know about the Pro. I can't remember what they're putting in there, but come on. Like, everybody has been saying, please upgrade that FaceTime camera. It's just ridiculous at this point.
They did talk about the fact that on chip, it's able to do some special things to make it look even better. But it is really interesting that they're sticking with that for so long. I have to say, as far as Mac goes, the prices I'm impressed with. I think they are keeping prices fairly reasonable. And if they truly work out to be this fast as they're saying, I think this is good. Mac has seen some significant increase in sales and ownership of the kind of laptop market. I think it's just going to increase. So it's exciting, but I am concerned about that Lightroom. Tom reminded me it's that the program's called Rosetta that's going to do that kind of letting you run on top of the other thing. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm worried that we're going to have some sluggish future ahead of us. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the computer I'm gesturing to is an iMac from late 2015, I think. Late 2015, 27-inch iMac that I've just loved forever, but I really do feel like it's starting to show its age. And I'm hoping next year, not too long into next year, they announce new ARM-based iMacs that are doing well and that these all translate to good performance, because it's time for me to upgrade. When I'm editing 4K footage or now even higher footage, it's rough.
Well, I think with this new chip, you're going to see they're not going to run as hot. You're not going to need the fans and the cooling systems that they need right now. You're going to get better battery life, so you're not going to need as big of batteries. I think the hardware designs are going to really advance over the next couple of years. And iMac is probably going to be, I hope, one of those machines that they really do a cool overhaul with. I love my iMac. I've used a number of them over the years. My favorite, still design-wise, was the one, I think it was in the MoMA design museum or whatever, is the one that had the white kind of half circle, half sphere base and the chrome arm with a monitor that you can move around.
Yeah.
I mean, they've always pushed the envelope with the iMac, but lately over the last few years, they've just kind of let it evolve, and it would be cool to see them do something just wild again.
Quite different again. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, cool. All right, let's move on. Nikon, let's talk just briefly about this. None of us are real finance folks, but revenue's down 13%, operating profit fallen by 42%. Year on, let's see, sales of high-end cameras have increased, but their year-on revenue fell by 21% with profits down 84% in their imaging products business. 84%. So it's interesting. There's a couple of different places that are sharing these results, and they all have lots of comments. There are so many armchair quarterbacks in there saying this is what Nikon needs to do, or Nikon is doomed, or people are saying you're an idiot, Nikon's not doomed. Again, it just makes me so happy for the community we have, because all of these things kind of get discussed intelligently and not in this way of name calling. So, Tonya, are you worried for the future as a Nikon photographer?
No, but I don't have emotions to spare on that, really.
Yeah.
And I just got the Z7 this year, and I love it. And I've always been a Nikon user. My first camera was a Minolta, but ever since I've been professional, I've been Nikon. And but I will say, when people ask me about getting a camera, I often tell them to look at Sony instead. Even though I'm not looking to switch there, I just feel like there are more options. But I'm gonna be loyal to Nikon until I can.
Until you can't, yeah, and that's fine. And I think one of the things that they talk about in this earnings release is that they say they're going to intensify focus on professional and hobbyist segments. So for professionals like you, Tonya, I think that sounds good. They're not going to leave that market, and they're going to continue to put out these lenses and cameras that I think will suit folks well. I think the Z series is some of the best mirrorless cameras on the market. They need a few more lenses to kind of round out that whole market, but I think they've done a really nice job with them, and they're going to be around for a while. Yeah.
I think so.
I don't know. Yep. Okay, so let's move on to something a little bit more practical. Tonya, you've been, as you were saying before the show started, really busy with portrait sessions, and we wanted you to talk a little bit more. You've been using the neural filters in Photoshop, and you sent me a nice picture somewhere. Where did you send that to me? Not there. That's Steve's bad hair. Over here? Yes, over here. Oh, you guys, oh, good. You couldn't see that anyway. There we go. Okay. So we looked at these, and I'm going to show you in a minute just how creepy Photoshop has gotten with a picture of my son. But talk a little bit about your experience using these new filters built into Photoshop. So this is on the newest 2021 version. These are found under filters, neural filters. Is that right? Am I in the right place for that? Yeah, okay. How have you been using them, and how do you find them, Tonya?
So I like them, and I think they're just going to keep getting better, which is great. Like, I think this is a good start, but I do have a few issues with them. So I pulled up a family photo today because I had only been using them on seniors, which is just one person. And one of the things that is a drawback for me is that it selects the face and you can't do any other skin tone. So for instance, if I need to retouch like arms or legs or the neck and any other areas like that, then I have to run a different program, like a skin smoothing or editing program anyway. So then that's an extra step. So that, at first I was kind of like, I don't know about this. I do think it does a nice job, not a complete job for me. When I'm photographing like a senior girl, I want her to look pretty flawless. Boys, they need more grit and texture to their face, so I don't go as far with a senior boy. But I was excited that with the group, it will select all of the faces, as you can see there, and you can either click the boxes on their face to change which face you're working on, or there's that drop-down box, which I have in the screenshot there. So that made me happy, because for a group like this, where you're not zoomed in very far, this is really almost enough skin smoothing for me. I'll still go in and do some retouching to the eyes and things like that, but I know you're going to go into the beta filters and show how you can do the different facial expressions. I will probably not ever use that in a client session.
No, because it works so well. Yeah.
It's almost terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just pulled up, I did this for our neighbors. They're just the sweetest family. I love these guys so much. And it's interesting that it did find that hand as a face down there. So not perfect. But then I just wanted to make sure people could see. So these were the sliders hiding behind in your screenshot. You have a choice of blur and smoothness. I don't even know what happens if you move these. Oh, well, the default value for blur is 50, and smoothness, you can go negative or positive. As you're working on these, as you said, it only is working on the faces, so if there's any work needs to be done on arms or legs, how much are you tweaking these? Are you finding you're moving them lots, or just a teeny bit is enough?
So I was using it for a senior girl, and I would bring the blur up a little bit and then the smoothness a little farther than I was going with the blur, kind of at the halfway point maybe for blur from the center. But then you have to be really careful because it blurs around the corners of the eyes, like the details of the eyes. You lose detail in the nose and around the edges of the mouth. So it creates a layer, which is fantastic. So you can add a layer mask to that, and then you can kind of touch up those areas. So I do like that you can customize and work in those layers, and that's terrifying too.
That is quite terrifying.
I was curious if it was seeing around the eyes and the mouth, though, and you're doing some skin softening. So that's pretty impressive that it can do that.
It is.
It is.
I have to say it's nice, especially for a shot like this where you're doing full length and you don't have to be quite as detail oriented.
Yeah.
It's almost enough, which is exciting and fast. But when I'm doing like a fine art portrait or something that I feel like is a really strong client piece that could potentially be printed large, sometimes I go all the way into I don't do a lot of frequency separation, but there are some times that I will. So, but this is way faster. I mean, I have not found a way to make frequency separation an easy part of my workflow.
Yeah. And I think, there was a good discussion in Penn about, how much are you doing this? And the whole kind of is perpetuating the kind of flawless skin. And I think the way you answered of removing temporary blemishes, because just because a kid has acne now doesn't mean that they should look at their senior high school picture in 10 years and go, oh, I'm really glad I remember I had that acne.
Well, I think it's important, if we were talking about like a landscape image, we would take out the things that we felt drew attention away from the subject. And that is true of stray hairs and blemishes, or sometimes little kids' bruises that are temporary. And even sometimes, I know this can be something that people have problems with, but I'm really consider the lines of my image. And if somebody is like squashed an arm against their body, that creates an S curve, which we tend to go to in the arm. And so I will tuck some of those things in a little bit, because I feel that is my job as an artist, is to be looking at the lines of the body as well. So I don't want to change or alter somebody's appearance, but I do want to show them at their best. And I think they come to me to take care of them that way.
Yeah.
But if it's a scar or a mole, and scars I will offer to lighten, but like those are permanent things, and I don't want to alter something permanent. That's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for those who are watching, as you were talking and saying intelligent things, I was doing unintelligent things. I'm playing with the beta. That's what this little beaker means. The smart portraits, where you can then change expressions. Now, as it tells you, this filter is processed in the cloud, so it uploads some form of this image to the cloud and then physically manipulates it. So I took this picture of Henry from the beginning of the school year and turned on surprise. This is pretty creepy. The other day he was out. Oh, I have to cancel this. He was out helping me shoot with the R5, and I just took this, and he just gave me a classic teenager scowl. And we go into neural filters. It's going to take way too long. That's one thing that's definitely a negative about it. I imagine it will get faster over
very
time.
slow.
But if we say make him happy and we crank it up to 50, it's gonna make some teeth for us. I had no idea. I thought it was limited to like manipulating facial expressions, just kind of like a better version of the puppet warp tool, which has been used for years. That's been in Photoshop. It obviously is a lot more work because you have to actually push and pull the pixels to get it to do that. But now I just checked the box and moved a slider, and there we go. Oh boy! So
Keith got volunteered for this, because I did the same thing with my daughter, and I was like, what? The teeth are humongous.
They're large and they're
crazy.
They're a little yellow, if I have to be picky. I mean, some smoker's teeth. I don't know. So
it's probably analyzing the overall lighting of the image or something. I mean, you can always go in and whiten the teeth, but
that's true. That's true.
That's amazing. I mean, all this stuff. Like now, is this using artificial intelligence? I'm guessing to do all this. So when you get into what Topaz is doing and what Photoshop is now starting to dive into, it's slow and stuff like that, but this is going to be the norm in a few years. That's really incredible. With a couple clicks, you can do that.
Yeah. You can age people. It's really weird. It's all crazy.
We did the facial aging on him as well, and it's not good. It's not good.
The only thing I do frequently is sometimes I get a client who, when they smile, one eye closes a little bit more than the other, and lots of people are self-conscious about that, and so I will go into the liquify tool and I'll actually fix a little. That's very tricky, but it can be done. And I wish that it had something like that I feel like would be a practical facial manipulation, but like there's no way I'm giving somebody else's teeth ever.
What tool are you using right now for that?
I use Liquify, and you have to really, it's slow. You have to just do a little bit at a time, and close the other one a little bit so that you're not you can't just open up. And it has to be subtle. And
I do that in photos all the time. I'll smile or something, and I think this eye is always so much closed compared to this one, and it drives me nuts when I see pictures of myself. So I'm like, man, I wish the photographer would use Liquify and just kind of open my eye up a little bit.
Yeah, I can fix that.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Let's see. I think that brings us down to me opening the large box upstairs. Are we ready for that?
Yeah.
We good? Okay. All right. First off, I won't be able to hear you guys for a moment, but if you're watching the show up to this point and you haven't already, give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. We really appreciate that. And of course, again, Tonya and Steve, their social information can be found right down below this video. Go down below and press that. And then I'm going to go upstairs. I'll be right back. You can talk among yourselves. It's going to take me like 5 seconds. I live in a small house.
So he won't hear what we say about it.
No, now's the time. Okay, chat room. Go ahead and oh wait, he'll read that.
I do get very nervous. I'm always afraid that I made a mistake before printing really large. Like I always think it'll be my flaw.
Yeah. So I referenced this earlier, but I did this chicken print, and we're going to do kind of a tutorial.
I don't know if you can hear us. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
I get that. Thumbs up. All right, good. Here we go. I left one last screw in. It came with.
I kind of wish he would have just gone right to the package cam screen instead of all four of us.
All four. Serious than I thought, and it's also gotten darker. This is a 30 by 60 metal print on their Fuji Flex. And now, and I'm sorry that I can't hear you, Steve and Tonya. I thought it would do your audio, but it's not. And thanks to Jamie Morgan for replying to my email saying, be prepared with all of the bits you need to open this. She saves these crates for transporting to her shows.
Yeah, I save all of my packaging from BayPhoto.
I just save all kinds of garbage in case I want to make something out of here. I'm like a really weird squirrel with trash.
Timmy Scott says, at least Toby's wearing pants. This could have been really awkward.
Oh, yeah, but I forgot to take the slippers off, so I'm wearing my slippers.
Yeah, nice.
Well, let's see how I get it the rest of the way out.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Oh, he can hear us.
Yes, I can now. Chris figured that out. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, so at least you didn't hear the part about you looking fat, huh?
It's okay. I can fix that with Liquify.
There we go.
Is it completely in the shot?
Pretty much.
Okay. This is, as I said, and should say again, and I'm going to do a full video about this because I want to talk a little bit about how I made it and then how I got it printed. But here it comes out.
So does it seem like a standard metal print in terms of the thickness and the way it's kind of, you got hangers, I'm guessing, on the back and stuff? I'm sure we'll see that, but
yes,
it's not like an acrylic, right? They're epic prints.
They can be, I think, but this is metal on the Fuji Flex.
Does this already come with something mounted on the back to hang it, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So
kudos to John Mayfield for this suggestion. I think you should flip it.
Too late, John. Wow. So I'll flip it around for a second. There's still another clear coat over top of it.
Oh.
I'm gonna leave that on for now while I have it kind of touching the rug and things of that sort. But there's still another plastic bit on top of it. Here's what the back looks like.
Okay, yeah. Yep, just like their standard metal stuff. That's good.
And it does seem just a little bit thicker here than my other metal pieces that are much smaller than this one. But who remembers that I have a little Easter egg in here.
I do. That's my favorite part.
Yeah,
where?
I remember that. It's kind of in the lower left, as I recall, right?
Where it was? I don't remember it all.
I think it is on the side of the building, the like lower left building.
Yeah.
Wait.
Lower, other left.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you guys are here.
I think.
I said my name, Toby.
Yeah. Right there.
I don't see it at all.
What a narcissist.
I know, that's the important thing. But here, I'll stop that for a minute. I'll share that on stories up close. The detail is fantastic. I want to pull this back because I can tell that it's making it a little bit funny. Oh, this is pretty spectacular. So for maybe back up for just a moment, when you print this large, you're not really usually supposed to look at it too closely. You know, many large prints are in the neighborhood of 100 DPI or so, whereas something like a 4x6 might be much closer to what, about 300. So you can hold a 4x6 right in front of your face and it looks great. But a big picture you put up on the wall and you stand back from it, it's kind of the idea of a billboard, right? You don't go stand right in front of a billboard. You'd notice very quickly how pixelated it is. But when you see it from a half mile away or a quarter mile away, it looks great. The difference with the Epic prints is up to 600 DPI. You do have an insane amount of detail, and it's here. So I'm looking at the little lines on the railings at the top of the Space Needle and the needle itself, and it's all the way up there. It's pretty spectacular. I'm pretty
Toby,
happy
what finish did you choose? Was that is the default a glossy finish?
This is the high gloss that I got.
Okay.
And that was probably the hardest decision for me is how much gloss did I want? It is very shiny, but it's great. And I was a little nervous because, as I said, I created this with the Sony A7R IV using that high-res shot where it takes 4 shots in a row and then stitches them together. And areas where there's movement can be a little funny. So not too long before I felt like I was finished, I then noticed when I was zoomed in at 300% that some of the leaves were very green and red in kind of a pixelated way. And so I had to spend some time taking that out. That was the only place I really saw any issue from shooting that way with the Sony. Otherwise, it came out really, really nice. And I just love Rainier floating back here. Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Looks great.
Good.
Awesome.
I'm happy that you're happy. So
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. I think we're going to end the show. Well, I could go back downstairs, but we're done, right? Is everybody done? Oh, we have Q&A. I forgot.
We do have, yeah, and I think we do have some questions. I saw a few of them go by, so we should probably tackle those.
Is Henry in his room? Am I blocking him in if I put it there? Okay. Well,
for those of you in the chat room, though, that have no idea kind of what we're talking about when it says BayPhoto Package Cam there on your screen, BayPhoto Labs is a place that we've partnered with for many years. I've actually used them since my high school days. Their lab was right down the street from my home, and they are worldwide now. They do just an awesome job. They've been a sponsor with Photo Enthusiast Network for a long time, providing great prizes to winners of the photo competitions. And I have every print that's in my house has come from BayPhoto Lab. So definitely check them out if you're not familiar with them. I think at this point, most of our audience has heard us talk about them ad nauseum, but if you aren't familiar with them, definitely check them out. We've tried prints from all over the place, and I don't want to badmouth other print houses, but
I'm back.
BayPhoto is kind of a step above. So went ahead and used that time to plug them.
Once it got really quiet for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting for him.
I missed all that.
I thought maybe he couldn't hear us. I have printed with BayPhoto and I really like them. I wish I use Zenfolio for my client website, and they will not connect, like they won't work with BayPhoto. So that's kind of a bummer because I would like to make a full switch, and that would mean a website redo. So I'm not ready for that. But for personal work, I have been printing stuff with BayPhoto, and I'm happy with my other lab too. But I would switch.
Yeah, and Jamie Morgan made a comment that they have excellent customer service, and I want to second that because there have been times I had one print that they made for me 3 times, and each time they just sent me a new one. I got it a couple days later and said, "Go ahead and keep your other one," you know, which was, I mean, that was well above and beyond. I was totally prepared to just ship back the stuff that didn't come out right, and one of them was totally my fault. And I messed it up, but they took care of it for me. So yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah. They're big enough to provide awesome, you know, shipping and prices, small enough to actually give you good customer service. I've been really, really happy with it. So, and Debbie says, beautiful shot. Thank you, Toby. I just put up I put up the BayPhoto.com. Definitely check them out. And, you know, yes, I just printed this gigantic print, and with shipping and everything else, it is expensive. But a 16 by 20 is a beautiful size for your wall, and those are very, very affordable. And if you don't have prints on your wall, please, people, take some time. Find a picture that you like, and you don't have to, like, well, we got a lot of stuff in Pen that tells you about how to, you know, kind of figure out whether or not it's going to come out in the colors that you like from your monitor and things like that. So
printing big spoils too, because I have a hard time printing smaller than 16 by 20 now.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Just go big or go home.
Totally.
Yeah. All right, let's do a couple of quick questions. Laurie Reinbold wants to know, does the size of your Lightroom catalog affect the speed of editing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time.
That's why I split my catalog into whatever I'm working on in the current calendar year, and then I have a catalog that is everything in the past. And so everything in the past, I'm rarely going back and editing. I'm usually just going back and accessing, or not doing a lot of editing. And that way, I kind of feel like it keeps my current catalog, the one I'm doing most of my work in, fairly lean and mean. So there's definitely a difference there. People then always say, well, how many? When does it start to get slow? Gosh, I don't know. 100,000 pictures, 50,000 pictures.
Depends on your version of Lightroom too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Just when you think it's sped up, they'll slow it down for you. There was some discussion in the chat room earlier about Capture One. We won't go down that rabbit trail right now, but I will say that one of the huge advancements that they have over Lightroom is that when you import pictures into Capture One, they will automatically create these subfolders, and I think there's 3 or 4 of them from like raw to edited to final or something like that. But you can customize it. But the beauty is when you work on some photos in Capture One, it's only accessing that one file that was created for that particular import that you're working on, and so it's super fast. The lag there just is virtually no lag time, and I wish that was software technology that Adobe would somehow put into Lightroom, where you know you're not being you don't see a lot of lag because of the size of your entire catalog that's behind what you're doing.
Yeah. DxO too. I think their new PhotoLab 4 that just came out in the last few weeks. They don't necessarily do that, but the whole idea that it's not a catalog, you know. So again, you don't get that kind of slowdown. You're accessing directly into those folders.
Yeah.
But then there are downsides to it as well. So yeah, it's awesome.
I think Adobe knows that they're safe for people like me who I get so stuck in the muscle memory of something. The thought of even changing to a different program is so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like I just don't want to do it. I don't even want to know that it's better. Just don't tell me.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a lot of professionals. It's working and it keeps working, and they can rely on it, and they know what they're doing when they got to get through a lot of pictures like you, Tonya.
Yeah, and you got to put your professional work almost on hold as you get through that learning curve, and that costs you money. So yeah, it's totally understandable.
Yeah. Kelly wants to know, what do we suggest for online backup suggestions? My personal I love is Backblaze. I don't know, you guys use an online backup?
So I just subscribed to Backblaze I used their trial for a little while, and then once that expired, I was pretty happy with it. So, and their customer service was awesome because I had an issue. My external drive is a Lacy 2 big dock, and it was being used as my time machine backup on my iMac. And so it was being excluded from the backup on Backblaze. So I got in touch with them on their online chat system, and literally within 2 minutes, the guy said, okay, you click here and you click there, take time machine off, and it should work. And it did. And it took a couple weeks, probably even longer than that, to back up the whole system. But what do I pay? $65 for the year or something? It's worth its weight in gold, man. They could charge twice that. I hope they don't. But real quick, just because I'm such a fanboy, hello, Nick Page. We haven't met before, but I'm a massive fan. In fact, we did a show, a couple months ago. We're talking about people who influence your photography, and he's one of my main guys. Good to see you in the chat room.
Yeah, nice. Nick said he was going to be on the show. I'm going to publicly say, and then we have not touched
base.
Dude,
you have to have me on that show.
Only if you cut your hair, you mop.
I wish we could do a COVID air autograph or something. I am a fanboy.
Yeah. Nick, if you don't follow Nick, I think most of the internet does. He produces his Instagram is just 100% full of stunning images, from his most recent wave image to just lots of. And he lives in my state too, or I live in his state. I don't know, whichever we want to say that.
I love the flip side phone.
Tonya, what do you use for backup?
Zenfolio does a lot of backup for me online. Yep. And then I have external hard drives in all of my offices. So I have 3 offices. I have my school office, my studio, and my home office. And every time I sit down, I am backing up to a different external hard drive as well. So I have a lot of backups going on, and I run Time Machine on a different one at home. So it's a little obsessive probably, but I'm very scared about losing things for clients.
Yes, that's the big one. Working with clients, you want to make sure that you never have to call somebody up and be like, your pictures are gone. That's terrible.
Never.
I will say,
and I can get them. I just had somebody who needed a print last night for a funeral from 2015, and I could find it in a second. So that's worth it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Stay away from Amazon Photos. I know as a Prime member, for many of us are Prime members, it's free. But one, they don't accept all formats. So CR3, the newer Canon RAW, which I totally recommend people use because it is about a significant savings in size, but there's no real decrease in image quality. But for whatever reason, Amazon Photos is like, no, we don't take CR3s. We see those as some other video file, so we're not going to take those. And also, the program just hoses my system and crashes fairly constantly. So I've been using it because somebody asked me a couple of weeks ago or a couple months ago. They're like, hey, what about Amazon Photos? Isn't that free to me? And I was like, hey, I've never really tried it. Let me try it. And I haven't had a good experience so far.
I only use that for my cell phone. It is
that's
to back up my cell phone, but I haven't used it for my computer. I started and it was going to take 4 years, and I thought, nah.
Well, a lot of other online backup systems get really pricey, and they have these segments where you end up jumping to something that is just far more than what you need. I'm kind of in this gray area of my system's too big for the affordable package, but it's nowhere close to the next jump up, which is 10 terabytes or something crazy. And so that's one of the things with Backblaze. I mean, no sponsorship or anything by them, but I've researched quite a few of the different online backup systems, and to me, they were the best value and the easiest to deal with. And then after I had that customer service issue, and they were Johnny on the spot, I'm a huge fan now. They're great.
I used Carbonite a long time ago when I had a PC, and that saved me a few times, mostly because my PC died all the time. So then I switched to Mac.
Yeah,
I'm not sure Carbonite's still around though. I think they folded.
I'm not sure. I used them years ago too, Tonya. I'm not, kind of lost track of them.
Yeah. Laurie wants to know what are our thoughts about shooting in medium or small RAW and then using gigapixel to upsize for the photos you want to print. She shot 15,000 RAW files on her trip, and file maintenance is crazy. I don't like that idea. I would not. I mean, so Gigapixel is by Topaz Labs. They've got a nice suite. I'm a big fan of their denoiser, big fan of their sharpen. I haven't really played with Gigapixel, but I am not going to rely on a program to give me a larger file size for pictures that are print worthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enough said, man. I agree 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. What if it just can't do it? I've seen the denoise and the sharpen not always produce perfect results, so I'd worry about that. Nicholas Strick wants to know, can we talk about specifically what to look for in a new Mac for photography? I feel like we maybe should make that part of a show at some time.
Well, Toby, I'll say that, Toby, you were my go-to guy when I bought this computer, this machine. This is a iMac, probably late 2017 model, 27-inch, and you helped me build it in terms of specs. And I cannot, for the life of me, remember what I have here. I guess I could about it, but you kind of knew right off the bat. So I would definitely encourage you, if you have something you could just put out there about that, because your knowledge on where to go with these machines is pretty spot on. I've been super happy with this thing.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you said that. I was worried you were about to say, yes, and it just gives me terrible trouble all the time. I mean, the easy to roll off right now is a minimum of 16 gigs. I would go for their higher end GPU, because Lightroom and Photoshop both do take advantage of that now for the most part. You do have to double check. This is where it's been getting more complicated, because Adobe and Photoshop take advantage of many of these GPUs, but not all of them. And so you got to go look at their list and figure out whether or not what computer you're buying is on that list, or the GPU is on that list. But I think the Macs are pretty safe in general. And then I don't really keep anything on the hard drive of any of my computers other than the programs themselves. All of my pictures are on external drives, usually an SSD for the current ones I'm working on. So I don't need a big amount of space inside, but it is nice. It's nice when you're traveling to not have to juggle a bunch of different drives necessarily, or to worry about running out of space all the time. So I lean towards a 1 terabyte internal SSD. No spinning drives anymore inside computers. I wouldn't buy that. There's not too many that offer it still. And then it kind of comes down to what screen you want, but the Macs are all pretty much the same. There's no real big difference between those. So
and the iMac screen is great. It's 5K. Oh, I will also say that I bought mine spec'd with low memory coming from Apple, and then I bought extra memory cards from OWC, which was far less expensive. And especially, they have sales all the time too. You can find some really good deals if you can wait a little while. What do I've got 4 memory card slots. 2 have 4 gigabyte memory installed, and then the other 2 have 16 gigabyte.
Steve, do you do the same thing as Toby? Do you only keep programs on your computer, or do you also house all your images on your computer? Because I've been thinking of switching to what?
No, I keep everything on an external drive. I keep very little on the machine itself, but I've got
both, and it's slow.
Yeah, I keep everything on an external drive, and I will say that you got to be careful about the throughput. So I've got a Thunderbolt 3 attached to my big dock, my Lacey, and that's a huge improvement over USB or anything else. And you also have to be careful about the length of that cord. I think I had a setup in my old house where, I don't know, I went from a 3-foot cord to a 6-foot cord, and it ended up, to get the right throughput, you have to spend a lot of money for that. Anyway, I had a cheaper 6-foot cord, and I could tell it kind of slowed things down. So if you can get like a 3-foot Thunderbolt or USB-C attachment with an external drive, it helps a lot. And yeah, I keep hardly anything on this. And then I do a lot of work with Dropbox with my real estate photography.
Okay.
All of that is online sync only. I don't house any of it on my machine. I can access it through Finder, but it's all online sync, and that helps because there's a lot on there.
Well, that's something I probably need to move to, but because I don't even have a desktop. I just beat my laptop from place to place, and I just don't want to have to carry another thing. So a lot of times, even though everything is backed up on those external hard drives, it's also on my computer. And
so when you edit just on a laptop?
I do.
On the laptop screen too?
Yeah, or sometimes I have the new iPad Pro and I go back and forth between those as well.
Because you may want to at least consider linking it up to a larger screen, because when you get that real estate, I mean, you will become 40% more efficient, I think is one of the numbers I read a couple years ago, if you start editing on a larger screen. It's so much easier. You don't have to.
Or laptop, because right now I have like the largest screen that they have out, which is huge for carrying around. They have gotten pretty big, but I went from a 15-inch laptop. It was my primary editing machine, and one of my real estate photography mentors, he said, dude, you got to get on a big screen. It's not super costly, but he said you will be 40% more efficient, and time is money. Yeah. Then I'll have to stay in one place.
That's true.
I'm not good at that.
We do have clients, when Toby and I have taught classes in the past, that will literally lug their entire tower and mouse and keyboard and giant screen to the classroom. So you could just do that.
No thanks.
Sure. Yeah, we just don't let those folks sit up front anymore. Yes. All right. Moving on. Tom asked, how much did it weigh? I think that's about my package. Well, not my package. That's about the BayPhoto package. That's a great question. You know, it was heavy in its crate because it's solid wood around the edge and then all of that padding. I'd guess it was about 50 pounds. The print itself feels pretty light. I'd say it's less than half of that. I'd be shocked if that print weighs more than 10 pounds. Maybe not even 10. It felt pretty light.
Oh, and one of the things I was going to mention to people as you were opening that, Toby, when you get above a certain size, I think it's 50 inches when you're ordering from Bay, you have to buy a crate. And I'm guessing that crate was probably about $65, right? Added to the order, Toby?
Yeah, I left the packaging material up there, but that sounds about right.
So
yeah.
the crate fee depends on the size image that you're getting, the largest image that you're getting. However, you can pack up to 3 images in one crate. So if you're really going to order, large prints, you might want to, or get with a buddy or something like that and have them shipped to the same address. It's far more cost effective if you can add, extra images to a large crate. If you're going to pay $65 for it, the fee is the fee, but you can do that for 3 images instead of 1 at a time. So just a little pro tip for you.
Yeah, I think the crate that size was a little bit over 100 actually.
Yeah, it depends on what it is and the size. I haven't priced their crates in a while.
Yeah. Steve Pressman wants to know if I researched any more about Lightroom export noise. So I'm going to loop you into this, Steve. Steve Pressman, I haven't. He was on my Zion trip. We were working on some pictures digitally once we got back, and he noticed that when he looked at a JPEG that he exported from Lightroom side by side with that JPEG sitting in Lightroom, it was much noisier in the JPEG, the exported JPEG. Why? Why was it so much noisier? Why did it have so much more? It had more stars in it. It was an astro picture. So the one inside Lightroom looks like it has noise reduction applied to it, but then you export it with all of those settings, not changing any settings, and the JPEG is noisier. And I have not researched that more, but I have been thinking about it guiltily, as I know I haven't researched it more, Steve. So we need to figure that out. Steve, you don't have any ideas, do you?
What's that?
You don't have any ideas on that, or Tonya? Have you run across this?
No, the only issues I've seen on export is when you're using a color space, native color space, and then the export takes it into a whole different zone, from sRGB to Pro whatever, you'll get that green, washed out, unsaturated, disgusting look to your pictures, and it's pretty quick fix. But being that it's an astro shot, that's curious.
I've never had that happen. I remember you saying about that last week, and I wasn't sure why that would do that, but
I don't know. I need to follow up.
I did follow up on trying to make sure I knew how to export into the 16-bit though, and I think to like export out of Lightroom, if you're not in a TIFF, you can't choose to do that. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I was finding. That I had to export TIFF.
Yeah, because I use PSD. I don't use TIFF, and you can choose 16-bit.
Okay.
Okay. It's only the JPEG that drops you to the 8.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, that was a question last week. All right, and last question we got. Life is Good Gerald says, can I find a speed light for the Canon 2000D? I think the 2000D is the SL2 maybe, or SL1. Yeah, I got one for you right here. Godox is a good brand that I've been recommending lately. Let me share this real quick. This $76 Godox Mini Think Light, I think would be a great flash. Although I don't know if the head rotates. It looks like it does. Does it say zoom range, excellent, 182? You want it to rotate, not just be angled.
Yeah.
I don't see it say that it can rotate. So you might, if this one doesn't, you might want to go to a slightly, I just type in Godox Canon.
Just install it backwards.
Show. I'm not sure the pins would be so happy about that. So here is their TT685. It also doesn't right away say, but I have to think that rotates. So either of those should work just fine for you. And I'll just say, oh yeah, flash head can be tilted and rotated 360. Yes. You want that because put that flash on, rotate it back around so it's kind of bouncing over your shoulder, shooting over your shoulder for inside portraits. And it's just a huge difference, for your portrait photography. So, okay. Yeah. And Daniela says also Yongnuo. All of them rotate. Yongnuo is another brand. I've talked about that in the past. It's been a while. But yes, that's a great third-party brand as well. Very affordable. So it might fall apart when you drop it, but it's so cheap.
Just read Toby's Tuesday tip from yesterday. You won't drop.
How not to drop your camera, right? I know. Now that was actually Allie's from 2 weeks ago. Was like how not to drop your camera. Then mine was like how to make sure you don't drop it when it's on your tripod.
Oh yeah.
I laughed when I read that because I know I've been guilty of like forcing it on the tripod because you just need like that little teeny tiny bit. But you're completely right about that. You should never do that.
Yeah, that's becoming nails on a chalkboard on every tour, man. You're watching somebody if I just wrench it a little bit more, you're like, just the knobs are there. Just loosen the knob a little bit. You can do whatever you want with that thing.
It's so true. It's like the most lazy thing you could possibly do. So don't do that.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. All right. And on that note, don't be lazy. Undo the knobs on your tripod. Tonya, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Let's pull up your information. Again, if you haven't already followed Tonya, you should. She's got several different Instagram accounts, but the easiest way, I think, to get to all of them is to go to that TonyaWilhelm.artist one. Follow her for fun work, some Photoshop heavy work that's very inspiring if you're into that. And you've got great macro as well. And, of course, your portraits. All very, very nice.
And right now I'm mostly posting on my portrait account because I'm editing like a crazy person there. So
that's excellent. That's excellent. And if you're in the Pennsylvania area, what do you say is your work area? If anybody's watching in the Nade family portraits, whereabouts in Pennsylvania?
I'm central Pennsylvania. So
central Pennsylvania.
Anywhere near the Harrisburg area. I'm a little north of that, but yeah.
Got it. Very good. Okay. And Steve, thank you so much for hanging out with us. You can follow him at Scurich on Instagram, and maybe he'll post some new pictures sometime soon. Let's see. We got set up. Bets. What's going to happen first? He's going to fly his drone. He's going to get a haircut. or he's going to post again on Instagram? Which one's
I
going to be
think
the first
Instagram
thing?
because he's an influencer.
Yeah, somebody said that a while ago. I don't know how that happened. No, I've been spending too much time watching Nick Page's Insta stories and trying to figure out where he is without his geotags.
He's always at the arch, right? No.
Yeah, it's like, where's Waldo? No, but yeah, if you could give me a follow, that would be great. Because I do look at it every day, and when I see that I have new followers, I'm like, okay, I really need to get something out there. So, but yeah, I've just been shooting a ton of homes, and sorry, you guys, I promise.
It's okay.
I promise.
Okay. You have a life. It's all right. You're allowed to have a life. And I've got Roy up in there as well. You can follow Roy. He's been the one who's been behind the scenes collecting all of the good information and making sure this show is running well. So you can follow him at Clicked Photos. Thank you, Roy. And thank you, chat room, for hanging out with us. Everybody in there, really appreciate you hanging out with us. And if you're watching this after the fact, leave a comment. Let us know where you are, where you're watching from. It's always fun to see those. And if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button plus the little subscribe. That's a very easy and free way to thank us for our time. And if you want more information about the community, photorec.tv/pen will give that to you all. All right. We'll be back next week. We will be back next week. Let me enunciate that. Again, thanks everybody so much. Bye-bye.